the science of the soul, which is a very interesting, important topic to begin our session. Before she begins the lecture, allow me to take a minute to briefly introduce Dr. Jusmawati to you all. Assistant Professor Dr. Jusmawati Fauzaman is an assistant professor at the Department of Psychology at the International Islamic University, Malaysia in Kuala Lumpur. She obtained a PhD at IUM, which focuses on the identification of Malay personality factor structure. Her main research interest is in the field of personnel psychology in the area of employee selection. She's also an active member of the psychology fraternity. She had been involved in several consultancy work related to psychological assessment and scale development. For example, in Maros, Instone, etc. Holding a certificate in translation by the Malaysian Institute of Translations and Books, she offers services in translating psychological inventory for research purposes. She has been appointed as Executive Council member of the ASEAN Pacific Psychology Alliance, APPA, for the 25-29 term. It is my honor and pleasure to take this opportunity on behalf of the organizing committee to welcome Dr. Jusmawati to deliver her lecture to you all. Dr. Jusmawati, the floor is yours. فليتفضل مشكورا.
Okay, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Prof.
Okay, I shared my slide. Can you see the slide?
Yes, we can see nature of man.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm sorry, there's a bit of technical glitch just now. So I think we can proceed. So I'm here to present to you. I think I am the first presenter of all the presenters or the slots for this certificate. So I will start with discussing about the nature of man. Right. I think it is important actually for us to understand the very nature of man, which I will highlight in a bit. There are some kind of discrepancies if we look into the depiction of man from the Western perspective. Okay. All right, so this is my agenda page. So first of all, we will look into the learning outcomes and then the introduction. We look into the introduction and then this is actually the core. I sort of like designed everything under the question of what, why, who, where, and when, and how. Okay, so this is the design of the lecture. So when we look into the what, so practically I will be introducing to you the what actually is the science of the soul. I use the terminology of science of the soul to sort of hopefully to be equivalent or somehow similar to the original Arabic terminology of al-nafs. Okay, so that is the context, the science of the soul. And then with regard to the what, we will look into the core dimension, which is the ontology, the epistemology, the axiology, and the element of teleology. Okay, and then we will move over to the why, the necessity of knowledge of nature of man. Why is it important for us to understand the nature of man? All right, so this is where we will discuss about the monotheistic foundation of human psychology, and then the cognitive and behavioral alignment of the soul, and then how do we translate everything from our belief, from heart to our action. Okay, so that is the why aspects. The who should know the knowledge about man. All right, so we will look into the context of the universal covenant that we had with our Creator. All right, and then the nature of who we are, the seekers of obedience and truth, and then the contrast with the modern beneficiaries. So I will somehow compare it with the modern contemporary psychological paradigm. Right, the domain of application, this is where we will discuss how our understanding of the nature of man can be applied. And then the timing of the identity to expand a little bit about the horizon of the nature of man. Okay, so these are the agenda that I will be covering. And for today, I guess because of the in-depth discussion on the ontology, epistemology, axiology, and teleology, I think that's perhaps we can move into the why context. Okay. All right, so this is the learning outcomes. So there are terminologies that I will be introducing when I discuss about the nature of man. Okay, for example, al-hayawanun natiq. All right, so we will discuss about the context of al-hayawanun natiq, the rational being, living being that speaks, okay, and then explain the dual nature of man. So I'll be discussing this in more detailed manner. The fact that man is built up in its physical modes as well as we have our spiritual modes. And then distinguish between the four spiritual substances, which is so true of man. We will discuss about the context of qalb, ruh, nafs, and aqal, right? And then we will identify the three developmental stages of the nafs, right? And then we will try to understand and increase or improve our comprehension on the relationship between the pre-existent existential covenant that we had with our creator and the human fitra. So this is practically the learning outcomes that hopefully we are able to achieve at the end of the whole lecture. So this particular lecture will cover up a couple of slots. So this is the first slot. Okay, so first of all, I would like to introduce the context of science of the soul. Science of the soul, like I mentioned earlier on, is a direct translation of the Arabic terminology of ilm al-nafs. Okay, so in IIUM, somehow we use the term ilm al-nafs to depict the context of psychology. All right. So although we talk about the science of the soul, and even in IIM we have courses on science of the soul, I hope the understanding is that this science of the soul is not merely an academic course. I would rather see it as the foundation for everybody to understand our own purpose in this world. All right. And this is also the foundation for everybody to really understand what kind of relationship that we should have with our creator. So when we talk about the science of the soul, it's not about an academic course or academic subject. It is something that everybody, every human being has to understand. Okay, so understanding about one's purpose and our relationship with the creator should be linked or is actually linked to the concept of affirming the Tawheed, all right? Affirming the Tawheed or building up or strengthening the foundation in ourselves, all right, on our understanding of our Creator's existence, His supremacy and uniqueness, okay? There is connection between our understanding of our own nature, our understanding of our soul with, all right, our stronghold in terms of Tawheed. Okay, all right. So since this course is practically psychology oriented, I will here and there mention to you about the problem inherent in contemporary psychology. All right. So when we talk about men, just now I mentioned when I show you the agenda. So I mentioned I list down the terminology used, dual nature of man. So man is looked into as having a physical body as well as the spiritual element in that. But the problem with contemporary psychology, it is very much materialism. What they look into is only the concrete existence of man, right? The physical body, which bring about the biological paradigm or perspective of man. And one thing that is lacking with contemporary psychology is that it ignores metaphysical aspects. So when we describe man as having dual nature, one is the physical entity, the other one is the spiritual entity. The problem with contemporary psychology is that it ignores the metaphysical aspects, the spiritual aspects. And when it ignores the metaphysical aspect, it downgraded man to a mere biological entity. So that is actually the problem with contemporary perspective of psychology, which is, I can say, at large is dominated by the Western perspective. Okay, all right. So from Islamic point of view, we uphold man and describe man as having this unity of identity. All right, unity of identity. So in Islam, who we are, which is our identity, and our purpose. Why am I here? All right, why am I here? Will form one coherent context, one coherent world, one coherent whole. Okay, so although we describe ourselves as dual-natured being, but everything about us is connected, and we see ourselves as a single entity that is at once both physical and spiritual. That's how we look at ourselves. Okay. Okay, so that is the my introduction. And then I want to introduce to you, because in the agenda page just now, I mentioned to you this term, al-hayawanun natiq. The translation is rational being. Okay, rational being. So Al-Hayawanun Natiq, one thing that I would like to stress here or emphasis here is that although the word hayawan is used and you can literally translate it into animal, but I would rather everyone understand the context of al-hayawan as a living being, all right, living being. Okay, so that's why the translation that I use here for the terminology of al-hayawanun natiq is the living being that speaks. Okay, so please do not equate ourselves to the context of animal or beast. Animal, right? Although the word used is hayawan, but it is not animal or not relegated to the context of beast. So I would rather everyone try to understand the context of a hayawan or those living being, all right? A being with life. But what makes us different is that of faculty of natiq, nutq, all right? Living being that speaks. So that is the description of man, all right? That is the description of man. Okay. Right. So here, when we use the term al-hayawanun natiq, so that is the word, the root word to natiq is nutq. All right. That means we are able to use the language. We are able to derive comprehension or understanding or create meaning with our language capacity or capability. So with this capability, we are allowed to comprehend truth. Okay. Okay, so with this language capacity or language capabilities, we are able to comprehend universals. Universals are concepts that are abstract and complex. For example, justice, for example, truth. So there is no concrete existence of justice or concrete existence of truth, like how we hold our handphone, for example. There is a existence of the handphone. We can touch it, we can feel the very we can feel the existence or the physical build-up of our handphone, but universals are concepts that are complex that we cannot see. There is no existence to justice. There is no concrete existence to the truth. All right. So with our comprehension, with our comprehension of with our capability of language, we are able to understand or comprehend universals. Okay, so our comprehension of universal is something unique to man, right? It is unique to man. And that capabilities allow us to understand something that may be invisible, right? Justice is invisible. Truth is invisible. It's more like a complex concept. Okay, so we are able to do that. As al-hayawanun natiq, or if you want to use nafsun natiqah, all right, nafsun natiqah. So we are able to do that, which other living being is unable to do so. Okay, so here, with that capability of language, with that language capability, so it gives us an understanding that we have rationality. All right, we have rationality, and this rationality rooted in the context of our ability to perceive reality beyond any physical senses. All right, beyond any physical senses. So justice, we cannot see justice. All right, it is beyond our physical senses. We cannot see justice. Justice does not exist in a concrete form, but then we are able to understand it. All right, so that is one faculty that is bestowed upon us, human being, that is not owned by any other living entity. Okay, so that is the context, the first context of an-nafsun natiqah or al-hayawanun natiq. Okay, so now I am going to dwell on the dual nature of man. All right, so this is what known as dual nature of man. First of all, this is our nature. We have a physical body, right? In Arabic, when we refer to merely physical body of man, we use the term of bashar. All right, bashar. So this bashar, there is a classification. Bashar indicate that we belongs to the world of creation. We are created by Allah.
Dr. Jusmawati, can you hear Dr. Jusmawati, participants?
No, we lost her.
Okay, I think we have to, she may have an internet problem. Let's wait for a second. Your connection is off. Okay, Dr. Okay, thank you. Dr. Jusmawati is having a small internet connection problem. She is trying to get back. Just we give her a few seconds. Inshallah, she'll be back. For those who are having any questions, please write your questions in the chat room, and then we will, within the time we have, we will, at the end of the lecture, we will put them to the lecturer to respond, inshallah. And then when the lecture is complete, we will share the slides with you all, inshallah, through the WhatsApp group. And also we will upload them in the Google Drive for everyone to access. Also remember, we are streaming this on YouTube. So when the class is complete, you can always refer back to YouTube and listen to it again, inshallah. Doctor is back with us. We listen.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Did everyone get this part, the dual nature of man?
Just go back one slide, Prof.
Okay, all right. Okay, just now I was discussing about this al-hayawanun natiq. This is one terminology that describe man. All right, sometimes we use al-hayawanun natiq, sometimes we use an-nafsun natiqa. Right, so the al-hayawanun natiq, we translate it into rational being. All right, rational being. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, Prof, you are.
Okay, all right, you can see my slide, right?
Yes, we can.
All right, okay. So al-hayawan natik, we translate it into rational being. So I would want everybody to understand that the word hayawan does not mean animal or beast. All right, what I want everyone to understand is al-hayawan is a living entity with a life, a being with a life. That is why we translate it into the living being that speaks. Okay, so please do not equate ourselves with animal or beast, right? Although the term used is actually al-hayawan, right? Okay. And then this is the translation of al-hayawanun natiq. So sometimes, certain authors, certain researchers, certain theologian, they use an-nafsun natiqa, all right? So a soul that is able to use language to comprehend or to deliver their thoughts. All right. So here, when we talk about an-natiqa, an-nafsun natiqa, al-hayawanun natiqa, so the root word to this Arabic word natiq is actually not. All right. So this is actually a capability for man or living being to use language. All right, to use language. So when we are able to use language, this allow us to be able to comprehend universal. All right, rather than just particulars, object. It's very easy for us to comprehend objects. If we hold this, all right, this is a handphone. So you can clearly see this is actually very concrete existence of a handphone. You can touch it. All right, you can touch it. But our life is not merely physicals or merely particulars as such that we can see. So most of the time, our life is full of universals concept. Right. For example, I wrote there on the slide, justice or truth. Right. So these are the universal concepts that colored our life, that allows, because of our capability to use language and deliver and create meaning in what we see and deliver our thoughts using the language, we are able to comprehend universals. All right. So being able to comprehend universal is very, very important because of what we are dealing with, an existence which is complex, which is spiritual in nature. All right, spiritual in nature. And this capability of using language contribute us to have this faculty of rationality. All right, faculty of rationality. The brain power gives us the faculty or gives us rationality. This is how we define rationality. All right, it is rooted in the capability to perceive reality beyond just physical senses. All right, so physical senses, what we see, right? What we see. But then we are living in a world that we have to comprehend things that we cannot see. Justice does not exist in its concrete manner. All right. So we are able to do that with the faculty of capability of using languages and our rational faculty. Okay. Now let's look into the dual nature of man. All right. Dual nature of man. So when we talk about dual nature of man, so these are the dual nature of man. All right, the dual nature of man. First of all, we are composed of physical body. So when we look at our physical body, the Arabic term that describes man in its physical body is bashar. All right. So when we use the term bashar, it belongs to the world of creation. We are created by Allah. All right. So this creation, our being, our physical body is very much material. We can touch it. It exists in terms of its concrete physicalities, and it is subject to biological laws, right? We operate via biological laws, and our body, our material body, our physical body is temporary. All right, so that is one part of man that we have to understand. The other part of man is the spiritual aspect. So when we talk about the spiritual aspect, we have to understand that Allah breathed His breath into us, all right? That is the ruh entering our body, and that ruh will build up our soul, our identity. All right, our identity. So this identity, like how the physical body of Bashar belongs to the world of creation, the soul belongs to the world of man. All right, the world of command. So our soul is considered as the king or the governance of our physical body. That is the understanding. We operate, our body operate not merely on biological aspects alone. No. All right. So the soul govern. The soul is the king. The soul is the governor of our physical body. So the relationship between the bashar and the insan. So when we talk about spiritual soul or spirit, the ruh that enters us, that build up the whole identity, we refer ourselves to using the word insan. All right, so we have two parts, one bashar, one insan. So the relationship between these two is the body is the infrastructure, right? The body is the physical infrastructure through which the soul acts in this physical world. So the soul will be governing the action of the physical body in this physical world, right? So that is the dual nature of man. Okay, so here, I wanted to shift into the fact that we will be discussing about the four component of our being, which is the nafs, the qalb, the akal, as well as the ruh, right? So we consider as the ruh entering our body when Allah breathed His breath into our body. So we get the ruh to be inserted into our body. So the ruh will build up diverse capability or diverse component in man. All right, diverse component in man. So if we talk about ruh, when it builds up our own self-identity, we refer it as nafs. All right, we refer it as nafs. So by exploring the various modes of the human spirit, the various modes here is referred to akal, qalb, and nafs. So we seek to restore the spiritual and metaphysical dimension of man that is often relegated in contemporary materialistic psychology, because I mentioned earlier on, in contemporary materialistic psychology, they focus only on the biological aspects of man. Man is not merely a biological entity. It is more than just that. So from science of the soul perspective or ilmun nafs perspective, we will be looking into the capacity of ruh, akal, qalb, and nafs, just to understand the very nature of man. Okay, and then we move over. So we will be discussing the what, the why, the who, the where, when, and how. For this particular session, I think we will stop at the what, right? At the what. Okay, so the what, in terms of science of the soul or ilm nafs and its core dimension. So we'll be discussing about science of the soul from the ontological point of view, the epistemological point of view, the axiological and teleological point of view. Okay, I hope all of you are familiar with this terminology. All right. Ontology is the very nature of the soul. Epistemology, how do we know what we know? Axiology is the value element. All all right, value element, we are definitely tied to the ethical conduct. We are considered as moral being, right? There are lots of value ladening our action, ladening our cognitive capacity. And teleology, what is the purpose of our existence? All right, so we'll be discussing the what context from this ontological, epistemological, axiological, and teleological point of view. Okay, so again, refining or deliberating on science of the soul. The context is the science of the soul is actually the study of the soul as a spiritual substance. All right, we regard soul as a spiritual substance, not merely the mind as a generator of reason. So now there is a terminology, differences of terminology used. Let's say psychology from the very beginning. The word psyche is actually a Greek word. It refers to soul. All right, psyche refers to soul. But then when psychology is trying to establish itself as a scientific discipline, all right, it shifted because a soul is so difficult to understand soul. And when they started to relegate religions outside of man's living life, they become more and more secular. So it's very difficult for them to stay put with the context of soul as the subject matter of psychology. Because of what? They are starting to separate themselves from religion. Okay, from religion. And then they shifted to, okay, fine, we don't want to look at soul because we don't consider religion as very important in our life. So they shifted from soul, they go into mind. All right, they go into mind. All right, and then mind is somehow can be considered as a bit lower than the soul, or not as comprehensive as the context of soul. All right, so that's how they shifted in modern psychological point of view. All right, so from the science of the soul, or ilm an-nafs, the Islamic perspective, the context of science of the soul is, it refers to the study of soul as a spiritual substance, not merely the mind as a generator of reason. Okay, so in psychology, contemporary psychology, first of all, psyche, which is soul, and then going towards mind, and then the study of brain, mental processes, and human behavior. So man is relegated towards or downgraded towards the functioning of brain, the biological functioning of the brain. That's it. Okay, so we don't want that. So we can see the depiction of man is very much downgraded in that sense, when actually man has a full comprehensive capacity, but it has to take into consideration the metaphysical aspects or the spiritual substance of man. Then only the conception of man is complete. Okay. All right. So the soul acts as an agent. All right, the soul acts as an agent, because just now I mentioned to you the physical body. Who governs the physical body? What governs the physical body? Our soul governs the physical body. The physical body is only the infrastructure or the vehicle. So now our understanding has to be put into this perspective. The soul is the core agent. All right, the soul is the core agent. From secular point of view, the Western contemporary psychological point of view, behavior is reaction to matter. All right, behavior is always reaction to matter. I feel down because of what? No reinforcement. All right, no reinforcement, no outside or external reinforcement. So in secular context or the contemporary psychological perspective, behavior is always reaction to matter. Right. But from Islamic point of view, from the science of the soul, from the ilm an-nafs context, soul as the real agent of moral and ethical acts. Our action has to go back to the point that the soul governs us, not external factors, not external environmental factors. All right. So that is the understanding. That is the whole context of man in the realm of ilm an-nafs. Okay, so here we reject the limitation we reject the limitation of psychology to mere observable behavior. So when psychology look into and downgrade man from soul to mind to the study of mental processes, biological functioning of the brain, all right? So they are limiting their scope only to observable behavior, all right? Observable behavior. Ilmun nafs, the context of ilmun nafs, it recognizes the immaterial governance of the physical body. All right, so that is one thing that we need to understand. Okay, so that is the whole thing with ilmun nafs, the basic understanding. Now let's look into the ontology. So the nature, the very nature of our soul, the very nature of our creation. All right. So man is considered as the third entity. I'll give you one particular Quranic verse that somehow point out towards that. Okay, so man is unique, a third entity, all right, which is known as insan. Just now we discussed about bashar and insan. So we will be referring to Quranic verse, Suratul Mu'minun, chapter 23, verse 14. Okay, so in this particular verse, it gives a profound picture of the union between two distinct substances. What are the substances? The dual nature of man, the physical aspects and the spiritual aspects. Okay, so man is considered as third entity, khalqan akhar. So that is actually the Arabic verse, the Arabic term used in the Quran to depict man. Okay, to depict man. Okay, so we have dual nature, physical and bashar. All right. So the result actually is the nafs, the third entity. So that is, the nafs is actually the subject of ilmun nafs, the subject of the science of the soul. Okay. So this is the verse, all right? Suratul Mu'minun, chapter 23, verse 14. This is the translation. I put up the Arabic verse. The meaning is, then we developed the lamb into bones, then clothed the bones with flesh, then we brought it into being as a new creation, khalqan akhar. All right? So this is the word, khalqan akhar. All right. Okay, so the third entity here is depicted by the term khalqan akhar. All right, khalqan akhar. Okay, so this is the biological aspects of our creation. All right, biological aspects of our creation. So this is the psychological interpretation. All right, psychological interpretation. So first of all, our being has a lot of biological processes. All right, the stages of our creation, the stages of semen, congealed blood, and flesh, nutqah, alaqah. So those are depicted in the Suratul Mu'minun verse 14. Okay, so this is the material physical development of our being. All right, this is our jasad. All right, the physical being, the physical aspects. All right, and then now the phrase "thumma ansha'nahu khalqan akhar." So that is actually the core verse, that statement that you need to take into consideration. Then we produce it as another creation. This signifies the breathing of the ruh into the physical form. All right. Okay, so this is a form of metamorphosis. All right, so that's why the third entity, khalqan akhar, this other creation is the human personality, identity, or the nafs. Right. Please do not equate nafs with self, because it is different. Self is very much surface level, right? It does not capture the context of soul. All right. Soul create the whole us, right? The third entity actually is the nafs, right? Is the nafs. It is no longer just a biological organism. It is now a conscious, moral, and spiritual being. So at the very beginning, we know that when Allah breathed His breath into us, so we get the ruh to enter the body, all right? So we receive the spiritual component of our being. And that spiritual component comes with all the biological capacity or capabilities that Allah bestowed upon us. One of it is the brain functioning that allows us to use it to create logical and rational thinking. All right. So we are more than just that biological organism. All right. We are very much conscious, and our being is tied to moral and spiritual aspects. Okay. So the whole thing, us being a biological organism, which is more than just biological organism. We are a conscious being. We are tied morally, and we are tied to spiritual understanding. That is the whole third entity that ilmun nafs is studying. Psychology, from the Western perspective, relegate or downgrade men by not looking into this aspect. They stop at the level of biological entity. All right. So the new creation actually is the transition from a biological organism to a conscious moral being. So I will stop here. All right. Just in case of any questions, you can post the question into chat. If I'm not able to answer it now, I will respond to the chat question later. Okay. All right, so that's all. I am so sorry because of the technical glitches. All right, hopefully we do learn something here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Prof. Jusmawati, that was very, very interesting and informative opening lecture. We learned a lot from you. Jazakallah khair, inshallah. And as Prof mentioned just now, you can always put your questions on the chat, and she will attend to them after this as she goes through it, and maybe later also as well, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Jusmawati, for that very useful lecture. In fact, some of the questions, if I just mention, always they have been going revolving around the differences between ruh, nafs, aql, and qalb.
Okay.
Some are confusing between ruh and nafs and see if it's the same thing but in different forms or whatever. So maybe later you can clarify.
Okay.
Inshallah.
I will clarify later. All right.
Inshallah. Thank you, Doctor.
Bye.
Dear brothers and sisters, that was our first lecture by Dr. Jusmawati Fauzaman on the nature of man and the science of the soul. I'm sure you'll agree with me, it was a very nice and well-presented lecture. Thank you, Doctor. Now, the second lecture will be on mental health and the prophetic model of work ethic. And we will have with us our own, none other than our own Professor Dr. Shukran Abdul Rahman, who is a professor at the Department of Psychology at IUM, and also the former president of the Malaysian Psychological Association and a fellow researcher at the Imam Bukhari International Scientific Research Center in Uzbekistan. He's a well-known psychologist around Asia and the world, and the Muslim world especially. It is our honor and pleasure to invite now Prof. Shukran to deliver his lecture. Prof. Shukran, فليتفضل مشكورا.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Rashad. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wa mursalin, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin, amma ba'd. Professor Emeritus Dr. Jamil Osman, I think he is online as well. Dr. Rashad as the MC or moderator for today's class, and all audience or students, participants of this online short course on mental health, psychology, and counseling. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And a very pleasant morning from Malaysia. And I think there are people who are experiencing evening already, or afternoon or morning, okay, wherever you are. Salawat and salam to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family members and companions. So the topic that I will be talking today or sharing with you today is on mental health and the Prophet's model of work ethic. Alhamdulillah, we have listened to Dr. Jusmawati, who had deliberated the nature of human. Okay, in her session just now, okay, you have heard of the component of human. I mean, what we are made of. Okay, the nature of human, the nature of man, or the nature of women. Okay, I think one thing we have to remember is that we are sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to this world, to this world as Khalifa, as vicegerent, of Allah to administer the world, administer the world, and also to safeguard deen, and to administer the world. In Arabic, our ustads will tell us that as Khalifa, you are here to safeguard deen or hifzuddin, and also siyasat dunya, right? To manage or to administer this world. So what do you mean by safeguarding deen or hifzuddin? Right? So we are here to safeguard the deen, or to safeguard the way of life which has been taught by Allah through His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? So we are here to make sure that the way of life written in the Quran, prescribed or described in the Hadith, are understood and being implemented. Right? So, and the other part of Khalifa is to administer the world or to manage the world. Who are on this earth? Who are on this world? And one of them is human being. Right? So we are here as Khalifa to manage river, to manage land, to manage animal, to manage all resources that Allah has granted upon us, including human resources or workforce, right? So who know about human? Who know about human resources? Who know about workforce? People who study human. Who are they? Psychologists or people who learn about human. So alhamdulillah, we are in the effort to understand the true nature of man, so that we can help them play their role as Khalifa, so that we can help them, we can enable them to peacefully, happily, effectively play their role as Khalifa or as vicegerent on this earth. And one of the important factors for us to fully function on this earth is to be in healthy state, to be in healthy condition. We recite dua that Allah, so that Allah grant us healthy body, healthy hearing, healthy sight, and things like those. Allahumma afini fi badani, Allahumma afini fi sam'i, Allahumma afini fi basari. So we ask Allah to grant upon us health, right, in our body. But what are there in our body? And just now you have listened that it is not only the physical body that we also have the spiritual component. We also have the soul, nafs, which have been deliberated just now, right? So my task is to focus on mental health and how do we nurture or develop or improve or change health, okay, as per the guidance from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the topic is mental health and the Prophet's model of work ethic. There are many things that we are going to look at in addition to the hadith that describe and prescribes, okay, the way to stay healthy for ourselves and for others as well. Okay. So health is not limited to the absence of illness. So this is what the World Health Organization say. Health is not limited to the absence of illness, but also the presence of mental health. But last week we said that we have to go beyond mental health. Okay, we have to talk about the totality of man, right? So for lack of better term, we are using psychological health. Right? So mental health is a central dimension of human being. Why? Because just now you have heard that we have a governor, we have a regulator in our body system, and that regulator or that governor will lead us, will govern us, will lead us to take certain direction of behavior. Right? So with that direction of behavior, we will show action. We will manifest them in our action. So mental health shapes how we relate to ourselves. There are many hadiths in the Prophet hadith. There are many guidance in the Prophet hadith that talk about how do we relate to ourselves. How do we interact with others? How do we function in our society? And ultimately, how do we relate or connect with our Lord, our Creator, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? I've just completed my research on work ethic based on the Prophet's hadith, right? So initially I planned to come up with 14 scopes of work ethic, right? And that 14 scopes okay, are derived from hadith from the Prophet Muhammad SAW, okay, that outline the way we relate to, first of all, ourselves. Right? But I could not complete to the 14th scope because there are many hadiths that focus on the way we react or the way we relate to ourselves. Right? So we are going to study some of them here in our class, the 4 sessions that I'm going to have with you. Right? So mental health encompasses emotional, yeah, what is emotion? The effects part of human, okay, the feeling parts of human, the behavioral aspect, okay, the reactions, okay, the behavioral aspect, the cognitive, the thinking aspects of human, and also the spirituality, the spiritual aspects of human. So what are those? Okay, you have listened to some of them just now from Dr. Jusmawati, and inshallah in this session, in the subsequent sessions as well, we are going to look at how do we react or how do we relate to our emotion, how do we nurture our good behaviors, how do we shape our thinking, and how do we deal with our spirituality, and how do we improve our spirituality so that we can have that, total psychological health. So mental health and the Prophet's model work ethic. This topic, okay, what can you expect from this topic? Okay, this topic will contribute to the ongoing discussion on how faith-based ethical framework, right? So we have many faith-based ethical framework in the literature. Maybe you have heard of Protestant work ethic, right? So how does faith-based ethical framework can deepen understanding of mental health? So when we talk about mental health, are we only, referring or attributing it to the mental state, right? So whether we have sound thinking process or not, are we attributing it only to one factor, right? So what else have to be factored in when we are talking about mental health? So in this case, we are zooming into the ethics. Okay, today we are going to look at the meaning of ethics. So this topic also discuss the importance of ethical orientation. Right, so it is not only physical, mental orientation that we give weightage when we are talking about psychological health, right? So we are also giving merit and values to the ethics, the ethical orientation, in shaping psychological health, right? So how does ethic play a role in shaping or in improving or in developing ours and other psychological health? Right? So we are linking ethics and psychological health. And we are also looking at the extent to which ethical disorientation. Now, if we put ethic for granted, if we do not care about ethic, or if we rubbish bin ethic, right? How could this lead to our psychological distress? Right? So is it true to say that people who do not value ethics will suffer from certain psychological distress? Right? So this is the focus of this topic. So the prophetic guidance, we know we know a hadith that Prophet Muhammad SAW says, "Innama bu'ithtu li utammima makarimal akhlaq." Right? The Prophet Muhammad SAW is sent to this world, is sent as a prophet to complete, the creation of human, to focus on akhlaq as well, right? To focus on the perfection of human. Right? What does this mean? Right? So the Prophet Muhammad SAW come with teachings, with guidance, with principles. Okay, many of them are important to shape our mental health, to make sure that we are healthy, in totality. The Prophet's guidance on human internal characteristics play a significant role in nurturing our mental health. Right. So what does this guidance on? Okay, guidance on human internal characteristics, our internal characteristics. What are our internal characteristics? There are many hadiths by the Prophet Muhammad SAW which talk about developing internal characteristics. Okay? Not the external actions or external behavior that we manifest or that we demonstrate. Right? So the focus is on adab. The focus is on akhlaq. Now, these are all internal characteristics. Right? So this topic, okay, the topic of mental health, grounds the notion of ethic on prophetic guidance. Yes, there are many principles, concepts in the Quran. Now we are going to look into what do Prophet Hadiths have to say, okay, about ethics. We are going to examine mental health through the perspective of Prophet's model of ethic. We are going to highlight the relevance of prophetic ethic for individuals. Like I said just now, there are many hadiths which focus on the way we regulate ourselves, the way we regulate our relationship with others, the way we regulate ourselves with our family members, the way we govern our behaviors when we have to deal with resources, right? So those are guidances available, okay, in the hadith of Prophet Muhammad SAW. Okay, this topic also highlight how Prophet's teaching on internal characteristics, for example, ikhlas, for example, niyat, okay, can contribute to our emotional resilience, right? So there are many challenges that we are facing, that we are encountering now, right? It might disrupt, okay, our survival. It might disrupt, okay, our motivation. It might, affect our resilience. So how do these characteristics, the internal characteristics, stabilize our psychological state so that we can enjoy psychological health? Right. So this is what you can expect from this topic. So in summary, by the end of this topic, you'll be able to understand the relationship between ethic and psychological health. You will also know the meaning, the definition of ethic after this, and psychological health. You'll be able to relate prophetic guidance on ethical principles with psychological health. Just now you have listened to ontology, epistemology, axiology, and also teleology. How do we relate hadith of the Prophet Muhammad SAW beyond the ontology, beyond the subject matter, right? Because the hadith talk about principles, talk about guidance, and how do we relate, or how do we transform them into ethics as well, right? So we want to relate the prophetic guidance into ethical principles, right? So what can we derive from the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad SAW so that they can be turned into statement of ethics, right? And the last one is to apply insights, to apply the knowledge that we learn, okay, the lesson that we learn from this session to do counseling, okay, to lead others, and even to develop ourselves. All right, so this course, okay, has 3 dimensions or 3 parts: psychology, counseling, and mental health. So how do we use our knowledge, okay, on ethics? How do we use our knowledge of ethics to do counseling, all right, to enable others to develop, to change, or to improve? Okay. Okay. Maybe you want to revisit, some of the idea about mental health. Huh? Okay, contemporary societies, and in fact, in previous societies as well, there were challenges, but we are on the heightened challenges, especially the mental health challenges. Every day, you have heard a lot about cases which involve counterproductive behaviors. Now, counterproductive behaviors also reflect, certain extent of mental health issue. It is not only depression, it is not only suicide, which depict the cause of mental health, but counterproductive behaviors, graft, for example, right? Bribery also, right? Represent certain extent of heightened mental health. Okay, so these are the issues that we are now witnessing or even experiencing in our today's challenging life. Right. So contemporary societies experience heightened mental health challenges. Why? Because of multiple pressures, and those pressures are interrelated. Among the pressures are rising workplace demands. Okay, workplace demand a lot from us. It is not only about our responsibility that we have to deal with. We have to deal with other than our tasks as well. Technology has required us to to have various experience nowadays. So we go to work to accomplish certain requirements, but our experience are beyond the requirement. For example, I have the requirement is for me to teach, for example, but the experience that I have at workplace beyond teaching. I have to deal with technology, I have to deal with now AI and things like those. These are the rising demands, right? Increasing complex interpersonal relationship. Now, our interpersonal relationship, our relationship with family members, our relationship with our parents, our relationship with our children, our relationship with our colleagues are now becoming complex. Why? Because maybe we have to be on the relationship round the clock because of technology. We have humongous information now that we have to deal with. When we have enormous level of information, we have to process. We have to process the information. We have to make decision. We have to make a choice, right? And this would jeopardize our quality of life. It would fill in, much clutter or many clutters in our brain. It would also affect our body when our thinking is too much and things like those. Right? So the pressures intensify expectation of others upon us. Right? So when work are mandated or tasked today, the expectation for you to complete it is soon, for example. So intensify expectation for productivity and for performance. Rapid technological advancement, unstable social environment, political stability, disaster, natural disaster, or man-made disasters, right? So all contributing to pressures. And these are all interrelated. So you do not have like one pressure that can cause you that can deteriorate your mental health or that can cause your mental illness. There are multifactorial now, right? But what are we going to do here is to prepare ourselves. Okay, how do we prepare ourselves, equip ourselves with knowledge, with skills, with values? Now we are focusing on values so that we can deal with these demands, accordingly, effectively, efficiently. Right. Let's look into the determinant of mental health. Right, so there are many statements that I have written here. Human behavior is not shaped by a single determinant. Okay, our behavior is shaped by various factors, right? Many variables. There are many variables that lead us to take certain direction of behavior. Factors. We are driven very much by external factors, right? So we are determined, our behaviors are determined by interaction between external conditions. I mean, we have mentioned a lot of external conditions just now. Okay, technological changes, technological advancement, environmental changes, climate changes, right? So those are regarded as external condition, as well as internal psychological functioning. What are internal psychological functioning? Let's look into, just now we said, raw soul, thinking, emotion. How do we react with temptation, for example? Who guides us? Is it our thinking? Is it our emotion? Is it our spirituality? Right? So human behavior is shaped by multiple determinants, especially, how do we relate the external condition with internal condition? Now, I'm making this statement because we are relating it to ethics after this. Right? So external environment, are accounted for by interpersonal relationship. We explained interpersonal relationship just now with people in our surrounding. Now, interpersonal relationship doesn't only happen with people in our surrounding. Interpersonal relationship is accounted for by relationship with our significant others, through any mechanism, through any medium, right? So we have now technology, for you to have interpersonal relationship. External environment involves culture as well. Your culture. Whenever you move to a new culture, right? So you are in a new environment. So that is external environment. Rules. Yes, we are very much shaped by rules and regulation. We do certain behavior because of rules, and we avoid certain behavior because of rules as well. These are external factors. These are external determinants. Policies. At workplaces, we have policies that you have to abide by. The rules and regulation that you have to comply, right? Technologies as well. So you cannot be left behind. You have to always be updated with new technology. This is an external factor. Regulatory system. You are superior. You are answerable to your superior. You are being governed by your superior. You are being observed by your subordinate. You are being monitored by your clients inside those. All these influence our expectation, even on our behavior, our own behavior, right? So those external environment, those rules, culture, expectation from significant others, expectations from superiors, subordinates, client, okay, at many times support our performance, contribute to our mental health, contribute to our psychological health, but at many times they also deteriorate our psychological well-being. So now we have to look into another dimension, another determinant of our psychological health, which is the internal dimension. Now, this internal dimension resides within us, the individual. Now, we are leading you into understanding ethics now. Yep. So internal dimension resides within us. Internal dimension is expressed through our knowledge. The knowledge that we learn, okay, from Quran, from Hadith. Does it only stand as knowledge? Is it only a set of information that we need to know without turning it into governing agent? We're talking about agent here. Ikhtiyar. Right? So the internal dimension is expressed through what we say KSAO, the knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics. And under that other characteristics, we have interests, okay, and values. And this is where we want to. So dimension includes ethics, which is individuals' other characteristics, in addition to the knowledge, skills, and abilities. So internal dimension shapes how we perceive demands. Now, just now, the culture, the new culture, the rules, the regulation, the demands, how do we perceive them? Right? So whether we are going to react positively, whether you are going to react negatively, depending on how do you process the information, depending on how do you process the input, depending on how do you take the information. So it shapes how we perceive demands, right? So internal dimension, especially values, will regulate our emotion, will regulate our judgment, will also help us to cope with the demands, to cope with the stress, and to construct or to develop meaning with the experience that we undergo. All right, so bottom line is the interaction between environmental factors or pressures and our internal dimension, our internal resources, internal psychological resources play a critical. Not only our behavior, but also, more importantly, our psychological health. So now that we are underscoring that internal factor, which we are labeling them as ethics. So what is ethics? Maybe next slide, she's talking about ethics. Huh? All right, so before we move to what is ethic and why we are focusing on hadith, right? Let's just look into what Dr. Jusmawati has introduced to you or has started to talk about just now. Okay, the ontology, epistemology, axiology, and teleology. But in my case, I start with with epistemology. Now, do not worry about how do we arrange it. whether we start with epistemology or we start with ontology. Like in her case just now, because she already know what is the ontology that she is deliberating, right? So she put the ontology first. So in my case, because I am talking about the sources of my input, so I put the epistemology first. Right, so I use this term IIIT framework, the IIIT framework or the epistemology, which would drive you to understand your ontology, your axiology, and your teleology. Right, so perhaps these are the terminology, which are used, to refer to the psychology, to refer to the philosophical dimension of our subject matter. So our subject matter is psychology. Okay. So what are the properties or what are the philosophical dimension of our subject matter? So that we do not only focus on epistemology, we do not only focus on ontology. Very much, in our education process or in our curriculum, we focus on epistemology and ontology. We focus on how to source knowledge or how to source information. So we teach you methodology, research methodology, how to source knowledge. What are the available sources of knowledge? Epistemology, the sources of knowledge, so that you can know more about the subject matter. What is our subject matter for today? Our subject matter for today that I'm deliberating is ethics. So what are my sources of knowledge? What are my sources to understand, to deliberate, and then share with you the concept of ethics? How do I develop the content for the subject matter ethic? Now, the epistemology here is revelation as well, not only from the mainstream, sources, but from the revealed sources. Right? So this is how we do Islamization in IIUM. So every subject matter must be approached from the Islamic epistemology. When we say Islamic epistemology, we are not only relying on one source, which is the empirical source. And last week, when you listen to Professor Emeritus Dr. Osman Bakar, he was elaborating on the concept of Tawhidic epistemology. The sources of knowledge must come from various sources, then our role is to unite them. I mean, to him, according to Tawhidic epistemology, no knowledge is redundant, but what you have to do is to make them one, make them one, unite them, unify them. Why? Because you need to understand, you need to understand the knowledge in totality. You need to realize that the sources of knowledge is from one source, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? The first surah, the first ayah in the Quran is Iqra. Iqra means read. What do you read? You read ayat. Ayat which are written in the Quran, ayat which are available to you in the environment. Now, those are the sources, right? So with those rich sources of knowledge, right, that we talk under epistemology, we are going to have the subject matter discussion, the ontology, the reality of the subject matter. In our case today, the ontology is ethic, right? So what is the reality of ethic? What are the content of ethic? Okay, we refer to hadith. In addition to, we refer to the mainstream empirical work. Right. So axiology is the values, the values internalization process. The values. Now, in all knowledge, in all subject matter, there are values. Okay. Be with intention. It's not only a knowledge, okay, that we take from the hadith, but what are the underlying values that can be derived from the hadith? Now, that is the axiology, right? So is it enough to know the sources of knowledge? Is it enough to know the detail of the subject matter? Is it enough to derive values from the subject matter without putting them into action? Now, the teleology require you, us, the knowledge worker, the ones who know knowledge, to put that into practice. Like, for example, today, you learn about the nature of human, you learn about ethics, so you are going to use them when you offer counseling to others. when you talk to others, to develop them, to change them, and to improve them. So that is the purpose of knowledge. The purpose of ethics is to enrich people's capacity to understand the world in positive manner, so that they will not experience distress or depress, but enhance their ability to experience psychological health. Now, that is the purpose. So in whatever knowledge that you learn, in whatever your students or your family members, you have to focus on the values, you have to focus on the purpose as well. Okay, why do we learn about zakat, for example? It is not just because we want to write in the examination, just because we want to practice it. Because we want to become tax, or we want to become zakat payer. Okay? Not zakat beggar, excuse me, but zakat payer in that sense. Okay. So Islamic perspective of psychological health. Okay, so we want to position ethic in this psychological health. So Islam offers a holistic framework. We say a holistic framework here doesn't talk about only mind when we talk about human, right? So it offers holistic framework in order to understand well-being. Okay, by integrating psychological health or psychological perspective, social perspective, ethical perspective, spiritual dimensions of human life. So within this total or holistic framework, mental health is not viewed merely as emotional regulation. So our mental health is not only explained by emotional regulation. Okay, it is not only about you regulating or governing your affect or your emotion. It's not only how do we deal with our feeling. It's not only how do we attend to our feeling. It's not only how do we share our feeling or how do we tell our feeling to others. Okay, it is not only about how do we think, okay, to stabilize our emotion, right? But also the other factors as well, okay, the moral factors, the ethic factors. So Islamic concept of sa'adah, okay, the sa'adah, last week we started with benar. Okay, today we have another term, sa'adah, which is true well-being, right? So this reflect a condition, okay, that enable us to regulate our thinking, our feeling, our even our spirituality, yeah, so that we can enjoy health, we can have health, okay, in our life. We can also enable others to have health, to have healthy living, to have healthy health in their life. Okay, so we go to the subject matter now. Ethics, ethical living. Okay, what is ethical living? So ethical living function as stabilizing force for psychological health. So ethics or ethical living, like you live with ethic, like you also include ethic, okay, in governing your behavior. So whenever you are deciding for certain direction of behavior, to take this direction of behavior or that direction of behavior, you also refer to your ethic. So ethic guides behavior. Ethics regulate your desire. Now, in our life, okay, we sometimes succumb to desires. But why do we succumb to desires? Like just now I said, there are many counterproductive behaviors, and those counterproductive behaviors are due to our inability to deal with temptation. We succumb to desires. Why do human beings succumb to desires? Is there any regulator in them? Yeah, but that regulator doesn't lead them to the right path, to the legal path, to the, what we call that, unseen path. So ethics guides behavior, ethics regulate desire, ethics provides meaning in our decision making. So where are the ethics? Inside us. This is the internal factor. Right? So ethics is related to values as well. What is values? Values, if you go to the definition, values is defined as the internal regulator. the internal governor. You do not need rules to govern your behavior. You do not need culture to rules your behavior. You do not need superior to govern your work behavior, but you have your own values that govern your actions. You have your governor, you have your domir here. You have your internal regulator that tell you what's good, what's bad. Right? We have that agent. We have that ikhtiyar. Moral values such as justice, responsibility, moderation, accountability, many more. There are many hadiths that talk about the internal characteristics. We use the term just now, the internal characteristics or internal psychological characteristics. Right? So they would actually regulate our behavior. Right? So when these values are internalized, when we internalize this value, we do not only know the value, we do not only know the meaning of accountability, we do not only know the meaning of moderation, we do not only know the meaning of accountability, we do not only know the meaning of amanah, but we internalize them. We know the consequences of abandoning those values. We know the consequences of not attending or not complying to the values. Right? So individuals are better equipped to manage the stress. When we internalize the values, we can better manage our distress. We can better resolve our conflict. We can better sustain our emotional equilibrium. Right. So within the Islamic worldview, ethic constitutes a core mechanism. Right. So ethic is not peripheral, it's central. Ethic is central. Right? Innamal a'malu binniyat just now. Every action come with intention. Intention is not a good translator, a good translation. The word intention is not a good translation to the word niyat because niyat goes beyond intention. Niyat, some literature can refer niyat to even preparation. How do you prepare yourself? How do you prepare the environment for you to have good action in that sense? Right? So ethic is central, ethic is fundamental, ethic is important in our life. It is not peripheral. It is not something minor. It is not something secondary. It is not something optional. Okay? It is important. It is core to determine our mental health. So in our life, ethic is not an added extra factor. It is not a side issue. Okay? It is a core in our life. It is an essential component of psychological well-being. So the word ethic in our everyday language can be understood as not outside mental health. It is part of mental health. It is part what sustains our mental health. It is central to mental health. Okay, it plays foundational role in mental health, and it is integral to mental health. Now, if we go to the mainstream literature also, mainstream literature say that stress is, stress happens because of perception, right? So one person who deal with a stressor may feel stressed out, okay, while another person who deal with the same stressor doesn't feel stressed out because the different way of perceiving the stressor. Now, what help them to perceive the stressor? Their ethics, the regulator, the internal governor, the way they interpret, the way they perceive, the way they reason out, okay, the way they understand, the way they take it as qadr and qadar. Okay, so the Quran consistently links inner tranquility to moral spiritual orientation. Like I said just now, okay, the way we look at something determine the way we react, the way we respond, okay, to the situation. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alladhina amanu wa tatma'inna qulubuhum bi zikrillah. Ala bi zikrillah tatma'inna qulub. So whenever you deal with something, you have to deal with pressure. For example, you remember Allah. Like it is not only zikr doesn't only referring to this. It's not only referring to uttering the name of Allah, but thinking, okay, that whatever you are experiencing comes from Allah, right? And we must equip ourselves with that ability, the ability to always relate everything to Allah, always think of Allah's presence, to think of qada and qadar. Right? So in Surah Shams, Allah says, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Allah granted the soul the knowledge. Allah granted the soul the ability to recognize evil, the ability to recognize taqwa as well. So we make dua that Allah SWT grant us this taqwa, okay? The ability to have taqwa towards Him, right? So we sometimes have the idea of bad things, right? So we do not want that. We do not want ideas on bad things coming to us, but we have to look for it. How do we look for that? We look for that by equipping ourselves with knowledge, because those knowledge would eventually or would be transformed into ethics or regulator or governor for ourselves. Right? So to be continued next week. So next week I'm going to look at this. We're going to continue with ethical orientation, work ethic in Islamic tradition, and the Prophet model of work ethic as well. So with that, thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Rashad.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much, Prof. Shukran. That was a very informative, interesting, on time completed lecture on mental health and the prophetic model of work ethic. Alhamdulillah, it was not only a very useful lecture, but also the connection between the first lecture and the second lecture, it flowed very nicely. The internal dimension, as Prof mentioned just now, and the external environment, and how ethics is important in managing the internal dimension, the external dimension, and our interaction between us and the environment, and how we perceive the environment, as ethics as the core in defining our mental health. I think it was very clearly presented. Thank you, Prof. Shukran, for this lecture. There have been a few questions, Prof, mostly related to the differences between ethics and morality, if there is any difference between the two. And then also, if all these four dimensions mentioned earlier, ruh, nafs, qalb, and akal, are all in the internal dimension, or if any of them is related to the external environment. If you want to respond, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, Prof.
Because I have to attend to another commitment, Dr. Rashad. Can we copy the questions
We
and I
have
will
them.
answer
We will
them?
pass them to you, Prof.
Yeah,
And inshallah, you can respond later.
Alright.
Jazakallah khair, Prof.
Okay.
And dear participants, that ends our second session for today. We thank our Prof. Shukran Abdul Rahman for his lecture. And we will have a 30 minutes break. And we will meet again at 11 o'clock Malaysian time for a third session. Jazakumullah khair and see you soon. Wassalamu alaikum. Yes, yes. For those who have questions, they can continue writing their questions on the Zoom during the break for 30 minutes break until 11 o'clock, and then we will continue.
Recording stopped.
Assalamu alaikum, Prof. Rahmatullah. Are you in the Zoom? Prof. Rahmatullah, are you?
Yes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam, Prof. Wa alaikum
Inshallah,
salam.
sorry.
Thank you. You may now, if you wish, put up your slide.
Recording in progress.
You can put up the slide to see if you can share the slide, just to test. Okay.
I've sent to the link the slide.
The link.
But is it what do you call?
Brother Shazwan, if you are here, can you put up his Prof. Dr. Rahmatullah's slides up?
Or you want me to?
If you can share, Prof, it will be easier.
Maybe better, huh?
I think so, Prof. You can share it
Let me try. If I share, this is my slide here.
Yes, it's much easier. I think you can change it as you wish and
Yeah, good
at your
idea.
own pace. At your own pace, yeah, inshallah.
Let's see if I wonder. Yeah, okay, now. All right.
Inshallah. We will begin in about 5 minutes, Prof. Inshallah.
So can you see the whole slide, or?
We can see an Islamic perspective. Yes, the whole slide.
You see the whole slide, right?
Yes, mental health issues and Islamic perspective. Yes.
Yeah. All right, good then.
Inshallah, about 5 more minutes, Prof.
Oh, okay, good.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Can you see my? Wait, if I want to figure out, let's see if I minimize it. Okay. 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 I have the.
Yes, now we can see week 1, psychological and Islamic foundations.
Oh.
Understanding without judgment. Very clear, Prof. Very clear. The slide is very clear, alhamdulillah.
Very, very clear.
And your voice also very clear.
I think this one, or maybe this is the big one. I'm sharing this one, isn't it?
Yeah, you are sharing week 1, psychological and Islamic foundation.
Oh, okay. Oh, I moved up there.
Yeah.
Now I go back here.
This one is yes. This is
this one, huh?
Yes. This is mental health issues is an Islamic perspective.
Okay.
And this is today's one. Okay. So you are ready, Prof? You're ready on your side?
Inshallah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Prof.
Okay.
And allow me to commence the session on your behalf, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah.
Okay, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dear participants, I hope you are all now setting yourself up for the next session that will begin at in about 2 minutes, inshallah, our lecture. So as we are heading to 11 o'clock, allow me to take this opportunity to introduce Prof. Rahmatullah, who is our next speaker. Our next session, session 3, for today on this course on mental health, psychology, and counseling from Islamic perspective, will be Professor Dr. Rahmatullah Khan. Professor Dr. Rahmatullah Khan is a well-known personality in Malaysia. He is a professor of clinical psychology at University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, UPSI, or UPSI as is known in Malaysia, and a prominent Muslim leader. He's also the ex-health minister in Malaysia. Former health minister, he was honored with the Ksatria Mangkunegara, KMN, Federal Award in 2011 for his contribution to society. Professor Rahmatullah is a clinical psychologist with over 25 years of professional experience in psychological assessment and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. His areas of specialization include psychological assessment of young children and adolescents, as well as application of CBT in clinical settings. Professor Rahmatullah Khan was born in Bangkok, Thailand, and raised in Malaysia. He is fluent in Malay, English, and Thai. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology from Texas A&M University, USA, a Master of Psychology in Clinical from Flinders University in South Australia, and a Doctor of Psychology Clinical Psychology from Murdoch University in Western Australia. Professor Rahmatullah is an active member of the Malaysian Allied Health Council and the Malaysian Psychological Association. We are honored, privileged, and thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us an opportunity to be with you, Prof. Rahmatullah, this morning. And we look forward towards your lecture on mental health issues and Islamic perspective. فليتفضل مشكورا Prof. Rahmatullah, the floor is yours. Bismillah.
Okay. Jazakallah khairan, Muhammad. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Yeah, okay. First of all, I would like to thank the IIIT and IIUA for inviting me to join the discourse. And I know it has been some time that they want to do this course, but Alhamdulillah, finally it's done. I think another difficulty is also on our part. Like myself, I wonder, what level of the participants that I want to prepare. However, anyway, inshallah, we will try. So my topic is like a 4 weeks program for me. So I have the by sharing I want to start with the so we have for me the learning outcomes for this section of my section is like at the end of the module you should be able to apply biopsychosocial and spiritual frameworks in understand mental health presentations. And then the second one will be to distinguish between normative religious coping and clinical psychopathology. Hopefully we will try that. However, this course is not giving you the what you call the license to practice as a clinical psychologist. It's more of information. And then we will also try to address stigma and barriers to help seeking the help seeking among Muslim patients. So maybe we'll talk about some stigma and barriers, and then integrate the evidence-based mental health care with the culturally appropriate spiritual support. Okay, now for this, let's go to the slides. Okay, let's start with slides. I think am I sharing or not?
We are seeing the mental health issues and Islamic perspective. The first
okay. Yeah, all right, right. Wait, let me see. Oh, but let me see. I have to go to this one then. All right. Okay. All right. So, all right. For this one, excuse me. Right. This, as I mentioned just now, this lecture is about understanding mental health. So it is not actually judging faith. And I will try to clarify some of the boundaries between psychology and religion. I know that the last two sections, a lot has been talked about the whereby the psychology aspect of Islamic aspects of the psychology and all that. But we will continue to look at this. Let's look at so for this week is actually we will cover psychology and Islamic foundation. So we will look at some of the issues in this. So you want to understand without making judgment. That's what it's all about, actually. So let's go to the lecture objectives for today, inshallah. So we have this. First, we will talk a little bit on the understanding of mental health from the psychological point of view. And then hopefully we can appreciate Islamic views of the human self. What are some of the Islamic views on the human? And then we will try to distinguish between distress from disorder. Distress and disorder. And then also recognize ethical integration. I am sure that Dr. Shukran, Prof. Shukran has discovered quite a lot on the ethics a bit, but we may mention a little bit here. And then we also, how can we respect boundaries between spirituality and treatment? So sometimes we have that difficulty actually. Okay, now let's look at what is actually mental health. If you look, this is actually, I think Prof. Shukran has already given the definition of mental health. So, and then, but what we are looking at beyond is like no mental illness. You see, if you look at the World Health Organization definition, you will find that mental health refers to how well a person is able to first experience and regulate their emotions. You should be able to experience and regulate your own emotion. And then secondly, you should be able to think, understand, and also make decisions. So you can make decisions, So, and then the third one is actually participate meaningful in social life. So that means you can participate in social life, whether it be the family, your community, work, and all that. So these are the three major areas of where you mentioned that how well a person is, mental health, in terms of mental health. So this actually corresponds to the emotional well-being, cognitive functioning, and also social participation, you see. And okay, so mental health is therefore about functioning, not perfection or happiness. It doesn't talk about happiness. Mental health doesn't mean that you need to be very happy or whatever, but then you should be able to function. So it's the main thing about functioning. So let's look at this emotional well-being. What is actually emotional well-being? Emotional well-being is how we experience and regulate our emotions. That's why it said emotional. So it is what? It is actually how you experience a range of emotions. In our emotion, we have joy, we have sadness, we have fear, we have anger. So we should be able to experience this. So this is what we call when we say someone as emotional, having a good emotional well-being, means we refer to the ability to experience all this, and also to regulate the emotions without being overwhelmed. Sometimes you notice that some people, they become too sad, and then they cannot actually control, they cannot regulate. So they are too sad. It affects all the other aspects of their self, So, and then the next thing is actually you need to what you call recover from emotional stress. That means when we are faced with some kind of emotional stress, we can recover from it and maintain hope and balance, emotional balance. That means you should be able to maintain your hope in terms of that. Look, that this is maybe temporary. You are facing some problems in your life, but then you can you know that there is a hope that you can overcome it. So that's why then that means what? That means that emotional well-being does not mean that always feeling happy. When you say that, a person having a good emotional well-being means that he's always happy. No, not necessarily. Because a mentally healthy person can feel sad without collapsing down. You feel sad, I'm sad, but yeah, I can, cope with it. And, I know I'm feeling sad. It doesn't mean that you're sad, you just collapse or, cannot do anything, all those things. So, and also can feel anxious without being paralyzed. You feel anxious, there's so many things to do. Like, for example, I have to give this lecture today, or I may be very anxious whether I can perform or not. And then I cannot do anything, paralyzed, I just give up. That means that's not a problem. It's a problem. So mentally health person means what? Means you can feel anxious, but can cope and control yourself. You can also grieve without losing identity or purpose. You can grieve, but you are who you are. You can grieve and all that. Okay, so now, the problem arises when emotions are persistent, very long lasting. If some kind of emotion that you are feeling, it persisted so long, you cannot recover. Just now you mentioned about recovering from it. If it is so the problem will comes when it is persistent, when it is intense, disproportionate. You see, with what you are coping with, it is disproportionate. It's too much, or is dysregulating. You cannot regulate, so it affects your daily life. You are so stressful, or you're so sad that you cannot go to work, or you cannot go to class, or you miss all the classes, and you don't talk to your friends. Those are, this is actually where the problem comes, you see. Okay, so this is where we call, we say, we said people is you are facing what? The anxiety disorders, depression, or mood disorders. This is where all of this thing begins, you see. So now, Islam actually acknowledges the emotional pain, emotional pain that we go through. Actually, if you read in the Quran, there's many places, Quran describes grief, fear, sorrow, and despair. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself experiences sadness, fear, and also emotional distress. So it is actually no problem with that, you see, because emotional suffering is actually human. It is not a spiritual defect, you see. It's not a spiritual defect. There are actually times if you look at the hadith, you know, sometimes in the seerah, Prophet sometimes have times where he also have some kind of you know, feelings of, but he coped very well after that, isn't it? So this is no problem with it, and except when we mentioned that when it is persistent, you know, intense, and you cannot regulate yourself, then it becomes a problem. Okay, we have talked about the emotional well-being. Let's move on to the cognitive functioning. What is cognitive functioning? Cognitive functioning is how we think, how we understand, and how we make decisions. So this is what we call cognitive. So that's why when in therapy they say cognitive behavior therapy and all that, they talk about thinking, whereby we are actually what you call looking at the way you are thinking, and then trying to figure out you know, how can you modify your thinking and all that, those kind of stuff. So that is so. Okay, now, so cognitive function also includes attention and concentration. Attention and concentration. That means you can pay attention. You can also concentrate on what's being discussed. For example, like that, you know, those are the thing. And so also it's another thing is memory. You can keep in your memory. You have no problem with that. And then there is a reasoning and judgment. So you need to make, you can make judgment, you can reason certain thing, and then the next thing is problem solving. You can solve problems. And then you, and also ability to make decision. So that's why all these aspects that I just mentioned to you, actually, if you look at psychological tests, some of the psychological tests and all that, they cover all this. When we say about cognitive assessment and all that, we are looking at all these things. So this is what we call part of cognitive function. So, all right, now we come back to mental health, because we are talking about what is mental health. Good mental health allows a person to think clearly, evaluate reality accurately, make decisions aligned with values. So you make good decisions, and adapt thinking when circumstances change. You see, sometimes circumstances change, you have to, you know, adapt your thinking. You see, you have to adapt how to. So when, so now, mental health actually, when does mental health affects cognition? This mental health problems show up cognitively when, for example, in depression, there's slow thinking. They mean slow. The person cannot think. It's very slow, you know, in thinking. Or he have some kind of hopeless beliefs, you know, some kind of beliefs that, you know, hopeless. So he feel hopeless in his life. He cannot cope with his life. He said maybe better for him to not be around, you know, those kind of issues, you know, when people who have depression. So this is where it is affecting the cognition, you know. So, and then anxiety. Another one is anxiety, where they have catastrophic thinking, hypervigilance, you know, those kind of stuff. You know, you're faced in a certain situation whereby you cannot control yourself, you see. You know, once I was stuck in a lift, elevator lift, in a lift for 2.5 hours, you see. You know, if then alhamdulillah, you know, I've learned about all this psychology. See, I managed to cope myself to sort of like to, you know, do all that is necessary for me to remain in the lift alone 2.5 hours, you know, until the what you call help came, you know. So there's another thing. You see, some people can go into a panic attack, and you know, because they cannot control it, you know, they cannot. You know, their thinking, you know, affecting their thinking. And then psychosis is also another one which actually impact reality testing. You see, some psychosis, so they become psychotic. Because it is too much on the stress is too much, causing them psychosis. And then you have also trauma. Trauma is also a problem whereby somebody go through the trauma, accident or big something. Then sometimes they keep on thinking on that, so it affects their concentration and also memory problems. So this is actually the key, what you call. So now, mental illness is often a disorder of thinking patterns, not what you call intelligence. You see, so now, Islamically, if you have to look at it, the concept of akal, see, intellect in Islam refers to. So you have the concept in cognitive Islamic. We also discuss about akal and all that. I think later on we will also cover a little bit on that. What you call sound judgment. Because in Islam also, intellect, you have to make sound judgment. You have also moral reasoning, and then but impaired cognition in mental illness is not a moral failure of the akal. It is actually a health condition. So that's why we need to be very careful, not making what we call judgment on people. Okay, now let's look at the third one, which is the social participation here. What is this social participation? Social participation is how we function in relationships and society. So, and it actually explains how you maintain relationships, because that is social participation. You are maintaining, you're having relationship with other people. You also fulfill social roles. This is in family, in work, in even study. You go to college or university, you fulfill that. There's some kind of social roles there. And then you also can communicate your needs and also your boundaries, you see. And also you feel there's a feel of sense of belonging. So in social participation, you're belonging to a group or many groups. You may have many groups, in your life. You have your school groups, you have your college, you have your workplace, you have your family, and this is the freedom, the social participation. So mental health is actually deeply relational, not just internal. So that means it's not only internal in the self, but this external thing, this relation with people, the relationship with people. So that is also part of mental health. If you cannot have a good...
Prof. Rahmatullah, we are not, the slides are not moving.
Oh, slide not moving? No, yes, this is a...
You're still on the first slide,
yes, this slide, because I don't want to... Actually, I could have done a lot of slides, but then maybe later on, what I'll do is some of these things that I mentioned, I'll give some notes and maybe can share to the participants later on.
Inshallah, Prof. Inshallah, Prof. No problem. We just wanted to make sure that it's not stuck.
Actually, this slide is quite a lot of stuff. So because we have 4 things to discuss: emotional well-being, cognitive, social, and also behavioral regulation.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, inshallah. I just wanted to make sure that there's no break.
Sorry, this slide is take too long. Anyway, so now, all right. So now we are talking just now about the relationship. So that means mental health is also relational, not internal in your mind, but it's also relationship with other people. You see, so if you withdraw from family or friends, then this is a problem already. Decline in work or academic performance. That means as a student, you must perform in your, academic. You must be studying and all that, but you're not doing that. See, or you have some kind of conflict and it escalates. It gets worse and worse. Or you also isolate, and also maybe loneliness. So these are actually the signs of what you call impaired social functioning, and is related to the social participation. So actually, this is also some early signs, early warning mental health signs. So So social withdrawal is often a symptom, not a choice. You see, so people maybe like if people are withdrawing, it's actually a symptom. People are withdrawing. You notice some of your friends maybe not participating, doesn't come. So that is actually symptom. You see, however, actually that's why when we look at Islamic what you call Islamic behavior, or if I can say that, Islam emphasizes community, the ummah. See, that's why we are asked to go to the, to pray Jummah. We go to and even daily salat also. There are a number of hadiths that Prophet says that if he can get, see, I think there's one particular hadith. Prophet says that if I can get somebody to replace me to be the imam, I will go to those people who are in the houses who doesn't come to pray and burn them in their house. Something like that. Correct me. I'm not a fuqaha to give this hadith, but you can check that hadith. So Jummah prayer is salat, is important. Community. And then also social responsibility. You cannot be just, just doesn't participate at all. So these are actually, so supporting mental health is a collective responsibility. That means what? Your what you call mental health is not only personal to yourself, but it must be a community. So that means we have to take. That's why also in hadith, people we are asked to visit our friend who are sick, our person who are in need. These are all stuff. You see, that means why? Support the mental health. So now, when we bring these three things together, emotional well-being, cognitive functioning, and social participation, mental health is the capacity to feel, to think, and relate in ways that allow a person to live with dignity, responsibility, and meaning, even in the presence of stress and suffering. You see, even though you are undergoing some kind of stress or suffering or whatever, you can still function. So if you can still function, then it's fine, you see. So, all right. So now, in this case means what? We need to avoid the toxic positivity, and then avoid moralizing illness. That means we cannot make that kind of statement, you see. So this fits in psychology in what you call in the continuum. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Right. Now we go to the mental health continuum. What is this actually mental health continuum? That means from well-being to distress and disorder. That means this mental health continuum means that the health is not an on-off switch. It is not an on-off switch. It's like it is not like whether you are mentally healthy or mentally ill. That is the extremes, you see. So it is not you are strong or weak, or is you faithful or lacking iman. So instead, actually, mental health exists on a spectrum, and everyone moves along in it, in different points in life. So, so you have what you call okay, sorry, there's some disturbance. Excuse me. All right, now. So that means what we are saying is that mental health exists on a spectrum and everyone moves along it. You see, that means you may not be in the extreme. You may also maybe have some kind of distress, but if you overcome it, you are okay, then you have the well-being. So what is the three broad zones I put in this slide here? First is the well-being. This is when a person is generally emotionally balanced, thinking clearly, functioning in work, study, and relationships. So well-being does not mean no problems. It doesn't mean that you don't have problems. You do have problems, but actually you are, you can think how to solve your problem. You are emotional. You're not too emotional when you are facing your problem. You are functioning well in your work, you know. So a person can actually feel stressed, feel sad occasionally, feel worried about the future, and still be mentally well. So that's well-being. And then you have distress. This is the middle zone. And this is actually the most common, the most common. Why? Because distress includes ongoing stress. You see, ongoing stress. You see, almost like everyone is facing stress in their life, you know, that's part of it, see. And then anxiety due to life pressures. You also face some kind of anxiety due to, you know, there's so much life pressure in our life. So, and then sadness after loss. Most of us have someone that we, you know, love very much that we lost, you see, someone in our life, you know, in our family maybe died, passed away. So we have that sadness, you see, emotional exhaustion. That's also part of it, you see. So this is distress. So the key features of this what you call zone is actually reactions actually are understandable. That means if someone's reaction on certain thing, you know, on some ongoing stress and all that is understandable. The functioning is actually affected, but not completely impaired. That means your functioning, your daily functioning is there, a little bit affected, but not completely impaired. And then support and early help are useful. So it's good to actually give support to this kind of people who are facing distress. To everyone, actually, everyone needs support. So distress is not mental illness, but it can become mental illness if ignored. That means if like you're facing distress and nobody is helping you, and you know it's going on and on and on, and then it can become a disorder after that. You see, if it's being ignored, so you might need to get help for that. Okay, now, so how can it becomes a disorder? Then now the third one, the final one is disorder. This is when distress becomes persistent. See, weeks and months persistently, you know, you are facing that distress in your life. So you're facing it persistently, you know, and then it's also severe. Maybe something is very severe, and it has, you know, impact your what you call daily functioning. So then here we see clinical depression, we call it, anxiety disorders, trauma-related disorders, and psychosis and all that. So when at this point, when people is in that disorder, so professional assessment is necessary, and actually treatment is ethical and responsible. So reaching this end of the continuum is not a personal failure. So, you know, don't worry so much. So actually, why does this continuum matters, you know? The continuum actually helps us to stop blaming people. There are some people who keep on blaming others, you know. It reminds us that mental illness is not a different kind of person. It is a different state of functioning, actually. It's a different state of functioning. You know, this is especially powerful in the religious and cultural context, you see. So, your movement along the continuum, a crucial point to emphasize is that people move back and forth along the continuum. See, sometimes you are well-being and then you can be distressed, you know, and can almost reach the disorder, but then because of early help, you come back to the distress and then back to well-being. You see, so and life events actually shift the people, you know, illness, loss, trauma, burnout, you know, social support, you know, these are actually things that we face in our life, you see. So you know, but with support, with help, we can, what we can achieve So, a person may be, functioning well at one stage of life, suddenly experience distress, after some loss, and then later recover with support. So this shows what? Hope and reversibility. It can reverse, you see. So Islam recognizes that human beings actually experience ease and hardship at different times. So emotional fluctuation is actually part of being human, not a sign of spiritual failure. You see, you cannot say someone, oh, this guy doesn't have spiritual, because he failed. No, it's not, because he's actually, there's so many factors to look at. So do not map the iman actually directly onto the continuum, because if you put that, then that leads to actually moralization. So what actually this continuum is not, it is not a diagnostic tool, cannot be used to diagnose people. It does not label people. It does not replace assessment. So you see, so what this continuum does is actually, it helps us to recognize early signs. See, it also encourages early help. That means you need to help people before they go to the disorder part. When they are distressed already, you need to get help, see? And it also reduces stigma. So, if you look at this way, then you don't, make what you call labels to people, you see? So mental health is not about where you are on the continuum today. It is about recognizing when support is needed and responding with compassion. So we need to respond to people with compassion. Okay, now. So so now let's move on to the biopsychosocial model. You see, this, for example, you see here. You see, so mental illness has multiple interacting causes. So when we are looking at mental illness, so there are a number of causes. You can have from the thoughts, emotion, and coping, which is psychological. And then you have the social, relationship, trauma, and culture. And then you also have biological, genetics, brain, and health. There are a number of studies that shows that, some of the mental illness are also as a result of genetics. That means you can inherit some of these the traits of the illness. So this is actually maybe later on we can look more detail on this biopsychosocial model and see. I want to see all of the. I still have a few more minutes now. Okay, that's good. So this is what we call biopsychosocial model. That means there is no only one area that causes the disorder. So okay, now let's move on to looking at this Islamic view of the human being. I think this one has what we call, some of these things has been covered in, I think, your first lecture this morning. Yeah, I think this is what mentioned, but meanwhile we will look at what you call so this actually concept framework for meaning, not for diagnosis, you see. So Islam actually offers a rich understanding of the human being that speaks to meaning, responsibility, and moral struggle. But psychology, on the other hand, speaks to functioning, symptoms, and treatment. So today we use Islamic concepts to understand the human experience, not to diagnose mental illness. All right, now. So the human being as a multi-dimensional. So in Islam, the human being is not reduced to thoughts alone, behavior alone, and biology alone. You see, instead, the human person is understood as multi-layered, involving the moral, moral agency, emotional experience, intellect and reasoning, and also spiritual orientation, you see. So the classical Islamic scholarship often speaks of several interrelated dimensions of the self. The most commonly discussed are these 5 things here: the nafs, the akal, the ruh, the qalb, and the fitrah. You see, now let's look at fitrah. Fitrah is actually the innate human disposition. Fitrah refers to innate disposition with which every human being is created. It includes a basic orientation towards goodness. You see, you have already heard that people talk about, the fitrah, when we are created, our fitrah is actually has a basic orientation toward goodness. But then experience or whatever make us becomes problem, in life is something like that. So this is actually also the capacity for moral awareness. So and also a natural inclination towards balance and order. Fitrah is actually not perfection; it is potential. Yeah, and it is not immune from suffering. So that means Allah created us, the fitrah is open to so many things, so that means it is not so actually fitrah does not mean humans are born without vulnerability. If it means that they are born with the capacity for meaning, for growth, and moral awareness. So now mental illness does not indicate a corrupted fitrah. You cannot say, if someone have a mental illness, then that means the fitrah is corrupted. Distress does not mean fitrah has failed. You see, so this is okay. Let's move on to nafs. Let's discuss about nafs. Nafs is actually the experiencing and the struggling self. How to explain it? Okay, let's see. Nafs refer to the self that experiences desires, impulses, emotions, and internal conflict. So in the classic text, actually, nafs is described in different states. You have the impulsive, you have the self-critical, and then you have the reflexive. So, but for mental health teaching, the key idea is actually the nafs is where emotional struggle and inner conflict occur, you see. So, all right, now. So, in clinical relevance, anxiety can be understood as distress within the nafs. So, when you have anxiety, it means that there's a distress within the nafs. And also, depression can also involve exhaustion of the nafs. And emotional turmoil is not what you call morally failure. It is part of the human struggle. So, must caution you that we must never label anxiety or depression as a weak nafs that turns suffering into blame. It says that so people are suffering and you blame them. No, cannot, you see. So the nafs is actually where struggle happens emotionally and internally. Anxiety, sadness, and fear occur here. This is not weakness, it is part of being human. So then let's move on to qalb. On this side, we have qalb, the emotional and moral heart. Qalb refers to the inner heart associated with emotional sensitivity, moral awareness, and responsive to life events. So the qalb is actually described as something that changes and turns. Hence, emotional fluctuation is actually expected. Yes, emotional pain. This is where we talk about emotional pain, grief, and fear are not signs of a sick heart in the moral sense. When you look at the psychological lens, the emotional dysregulation is a health issue. From an Islamic lens, the emotional pain is part being human. So, when you look at psychologically, it's like it's a health issue. emotional regulation. The person cannot regulate, you see. But when you look at the Islamic way, the emotional pain actually because being human, you can face all this. So these are actually complementary view. So you can actually accept it, you know. So, and then the fourth one is actually the akal, the intellect, reasoning and judgment. So akal actually refers to reasoning capacity, discernment, judgment, and decision making. In psychology, just now we discussed already, isn't it, about cognitive, executive function, and reality testing. So the distinction is actually when mental health affects thinking, such as in depression, anxiety, and psychosis, this is not a moral failure of the akal, you see. So it is not because the failure of the akal, no, it is because, there is a distorted thinking. It's a symptom actually, not a failure of faith, not a lack of intelligence. So the akal can be affected by mental illness, such as distorted thinking in depression or anxiety, because thinking can develop. People can learn, various ways of thinking, which may not be effective in their life. So that's why this is a health issue, not a moral issue. You see? So, okay, now let's move to Ruh. Ruh, the spiritual essence. Ruh actually refers to the spiritual essence of life, something given by God. You know about that, isn't it? And then beyond empirical measurement, there is no accessible to clinical tools. We cannot measure somebody's ruh, you see. So psychology does not assess the ruh. Mental health professional must not claim to access to it. You have no access to it, you see. So spiritual practices may provide some comfort, give meaning, and support the resilience, but they do not diagnose mental illness. So the ruh actually lies beyond clinical assessment. So as professionals, we must be humble and not claim access to it. So our response actually more compassionately to personal suffering. You see, because ruh is actually not for us to discuss about it actually. So now, Islam actually describes who the human being is and what gives life to me and gives life to meaning, the meaning of life. So whereby psychology describes how the human being functions and how suffering can be treated. So there's a little bit different there, isn't it? So there is different roles there. Confusing these roles harms both faith and mental health care. So you cannot be confused with these roles, you see. So common pitfalls to explicitly this is like when people say, if you have anxiety, people say, you have a weak iman. No, that is not true. If you have a depression, means you have a sick heart. No, psychosis means jinn possession. We have learned about that, isn't it? So I think not here, but some, in the communities, people can say, when there's possession, this is being possessed, you see. So instead, actually, what should be the right way? Emotional is actually suffering. Emotional suffering is actually human. Being human means you are open to human suffering. You are exposed to human suffering. So this is, that means that's what it is. If you are human, you will be exposed to emotional suffering one day or another. See, and then what about mental health? Mental illness. Sorry, mental illness is a health condition. It's just like any other illness, but this is dealing with mental illness. It's a health condition, and actually, faith can support recovery, not replace care, because you can give faith, but you cannot replace it with care. You need both, actually. So, all right, now let's move on to the next slide, which is, moved out too fast. Actually here, just to give two verses here, there is a recognition by the Quran about the vulnerability. See, distress is actually part of human condition. You see in this surah, An-Nisa, the verse 28, Allah would make the burden light for you, for man was created weak. You see, so Allah mentioned that Allah created us weak and vulnerable. We are vulnerable to lots of things. See? So, but that's why Allah also make the burden light for us. You see, so but we need to get help. We need to support each other. You see, and then the next ayat here is in Al-Baqarah 155. And surely we shall try you with something of fear and hunger and loss of wealth and lives and crops, but give glad tidings to the steadfast. So you see, Allah mentioned that we will be tried, you know. In fact, there are another ayah somewhere that says that don't tell that you are a believer until you have faced all these difficulties in life. So actually, distress is actually part of the human condition that we are faced. And then, okay, now when we look at this distress, what we're saying here, distress versus mental disorder. So, see, so normal distress are people, you know, things like sadness, fear, stress, you see. But then it turned to when becomes when we say mental disorder, is that if it is persistent, if it is severe, you see, the what you call the thing that we are facing is too severe, or it impairs functioning, then it becomes a mental disorder. You see, so for example, you know, like grief versus depression. You see, grief. If you are grief, it is normal to grieve when you have a loss in your life, somebody close to you passed away. You see, so it's normal to grieve. But then, if the grief takes so long and very severe, and affect all your life, then it becomes a problem, becomes depression. So this is the examples whereby you look at whether distress and the mental disorder. See? Another one is distress. Stress, when you are stressed, if you are, you know, persistently facing stress in your life, you know, and then it becomes severe, so it can become a disorder. It can become an anxiety disorder if it goes on. You know,
dear Prof, sorry to interrupt you.
It's almost time, isn't it?
No, it's a very important. Yeah, it's already 5 minutes.
MashaAllah. Okay, yeah. Now.
But it's a very interesting point you are covering. I didn't want to disturb you because it's a very crucial point. And on this continuum,
maybe we will continue next week.
Inshallah, this
where we left off.
So it can go backwards and forwards, right? It can go from disorder to well-being, and well-being to disorder, right?
That's right.
We can move the person back and forth, right?
True, right.
Inshallah.
Actually, there are only what three more. Never mind. What I'll do is I will continue this in the next session. Okay, before we go to the next what you call next module lah, for the week 2 module. Is it all right?
You can take 1 minute to wrap up, inshallah,
okay.
And then we can proceed.
Okay, maybe what I can do for this session too is like, but actually you will get all the slides, but I want to go to this what you call this reflection and closing, because so now I want you to think about this. Can actually faith and mental illness coexist? And actually, why is moralizing mental illness harmful? So you start thinking about it. Why? When we, you know, because actually compassion is actually central to both psychology and Islam, because psychology also asks me to be compassionate. And the same thing actually in Islam. Islam also asks us to be, you know, we must have compassion to other people. You know, they are facing difficulties in life, So if we understand that, I think this is, inshallah, this is what I want to mention today. We will try and maybe I will cover next week a little bit, 1 or 2 points, and then we go on to the next what do you call module for week 2. Thank you very much.
Inshallah.
Sorry for
Thank
taking
you
over
so
time.
much. Thank you so much. The
Assalamualaikum.
last point, can faith and mental illness coexist, is very important question. Inshallah, we will cover all this as you proceed, inshallah, later. Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much for that very nice introduction to the topic of mental health issues from Islamic perspective. We thank Prof. Rahmatullah Khan for his presentation, and inshallah we will continue from here in the following sessions. Jazakallah khair, Prof. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we will proceed to our next speaker, Dr. Bagus Riyono. He's a psychologist, a lecturer at the Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Gadjah Mada, or UGM, who since 2016 has served as president of the International Association of Muslim Psychologists, IAMP. Dr. Bagus earned his doctorate with a study on motivation theory at the Faculty of Psychology, UGM. He did his master's from Hofstra University, New York, USA, with a Fulbright scholarship in the field of industrial and organizational psychology. Dr. Bagus is an active board member in the Indonesian Islamic Psychological Association, API, and his last position is a member of the Expert Council. He's also has been a president of the International Association of Muslim Psychologists, as mentioned earlier, and has visited several countries in Asia, Europe, Australia, and others as an invited speaker in conferences, seminars, and other kind of occasions. He's a well-established and well-known Indonesian psychologist, and we are honored and privileged to have him today to cover our fourth session of the day on traditional, on Tazkiyah, and therapy in Islam and in psychology. Dr. Bagus, can you hear me?
Yes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum assalam. فليتفضل مشكورا, Prof.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. So can I start now?
Yes, please. You can start
Okay.
now.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfir. Wa billahi ta'ala min syururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Innahu may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiya lahu.
Prof, you can bring your microphone a little bit closer so we can hear you better.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Inshallah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Allahumma sholli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in wa ba'du. Alhamdulillah, thank you very much for having me, inviting me. I am very honored to participate in this course, in this certified course on mental health and Islamic psychology, inshallah. And my topic is about Tazkiyah therapy, and it is actually a construction, a construction of theories based on the integration of knowledge from the Quranic messages and also from psychological science, and hopefully we will learn something from this idea, this model, to help us understand ourselves, and also it may give us the tools and perspective to help others, inshallah. So let me share my slide. Okay, wait a minute. Before we talk about mental health, I would like to explain the sorry, the basic of the basic understanding of this Tazkiyah therapy. Okay, let me find my slide. Sorry, this one. Please apologize. I think I'm having a cluttered desktop here. Excuse me, let me just find the right slides. Okay. All right. Now we can start from here about the concept of mental health based on Tazkiyah therapy. Okay, so Tazkiyah therapy, the approach of Tazkiyah therapy actually is, first of all, we have to redefine mental health. We need to formulate the idea about mental health based on the Quranic message, based on the Sunnah of Rasulullah SAW. So if we refer to the hadith there, Rasulullah said that actually there's something in our chest, yeah, that will define us. Yeah, if it is good, everything of us will be good. If it is bad, everything will be bad. So, and it is the core. Yeah. So that's why Tazkiyah therapy define mental health or psychological health based on the characteristic of the core. And the core here, I translated in English into heart. Yeah, heart. Even though when we talk about the heart, usually we we have the physical heart.
We seem to have lost you, Prof. Bagus. We can't hear your voice. Dr. Bagus, can you hear me? I think we have lost the internet connection with Dr. Bagus. We will just wait for a minute. Hopefully he can rejoin.
Yeah. Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yeah, I was kicked out. I don't know why. Something
Could be
wrong
some
with the.
internet connection, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me just share my slide again. Okay. So we are talking here about the core of our focus here, our object of study. So in Tazkiyah therapy, first of all, we have to be aware, we have to focus on the heart. And the heart itself, the spiritual heart, is not material. It is something that is we call it goib, goib, immaterial. So it means that the property of the heart, the spiritual heart, is different from the property of the physical heart. Yeah, this is very important. So I would like to explain why this is important. First of all, when we talk about the disease of the heart in the Quran, it doesn't refer to the heart disease in the physical sense, right? Because when you have a heart disease in the physical sense, what you need to do is to consult with the medical doctor. But disease in the heart, what is meant by disease in the heart in the Quranic message, actually is disease in the spiritual heart. And this is the area of psychology. So when we practice our psychological discipline, actually we are dealing with the spiritual heart. And one important thing about the spiritual heart, it is written in my in the book, in the Tazkiyah book, that it has several differences between the physical, the immaterial, and the material things. They have this. Spiritual heart actually cannot. It's one entity. You cannot split into different parts. Yeah, when you try to split into different parts, what you are doing, you can do that only to the material, to something that is material. But when you talk about something immaterial, the problem is not whether or not you can break it out into different pieces, because it's one entity. That's why in the Quran, the condition of the heart is either it is open or it is sealed or closed. So open and closed actually is the condition of the heart. Okay, if you are happy, if you are healthy, it means that your heart is open. Open means you learn, you are able to learn something. You are able to accept guidance from Allah. That's a healthy heart. But if your heart is sealed, it means that you are not acceptable. You cannot accept knowledge. You cannot accept guidance. You only follow your own interests. You follow whatever you want. So that's a sealed heart that is diseased. Yeah. But then if we go through the Quranic verses, actually there are more indicators of a diseased heart. Okay. From the Surah Al-Baqarah, Al-Baqarah verse number 10, this ayat is mentioning about the diseased heart in a way that they are, wait a minute, this is the munafiq, and if I'm not mistaken. So munafiq, those who are munafiq, actually, they have disease in their heart also. This disease of the heart is not consistent. They are not coherent. The heart is not consistent. You know, you say something, but actually you mean something else. Yeah, you show something to others, but your heart actually is not coherent with what you are saying. So this is the munafiqun. So that's why from these messages, actually, after studying several numbers of messages from the Quran about the heart, then we can construct 7 indicators of a healthy heart. So we are talking about a healthy heart or mental health or psychological health. Okay. All right. So this is just to stress that we can learn when we study the Quran, we can directly understand the meaning, but also we can understand the meaning from the opposite. So if the Quran mentioned about the munafiqun, which the heart is not coherent, so we can conclude that those who have a healthy heart, their heart is coherent. Okay, so this is how we can study from the Quranic verses. And then this is again about the opposite. Yeah, the opposite is the some of the message in the Quran doesn't mention both ways. Yeah, sometimes it mentions what to do and what not to do, but not always both position is mentioned. So that's why we have to understand when Quran mentions something that we shouldn't do, it means that we have to do the opposite. Okay, so that's why we can learn from the ayat. Okay, and we can also learn the difference between the mentally healthy individual, the mentally healthy individual, and the mentally ill individual. So the mentally healthy individual is the muttaqin and the mu'minin. Yeah, the muttaqin and the mu'minin is the one who are mentally healthy because they their heart is open, because their heart is ready for guidance, their heart is ready to learn and to develop. And one of the meaning of Tazkiyah actually is to develop, to grow. So the healthy heart is the one who can do Tazkiyah, who purify the heart from sin, from mistakes, from misunderstanding, from ignorance, and from takabur. Yeah, so they can learn, they can be soft, and then develop. So that's the indicator of the muttaqin and mu'minin. Okay. Now again, therefore, the qualities of the heart, whether sorry. Therefore, the question about iman and mental health actually is not necessary, because if we read the Quran, the indicators of those who have iman is the same thing as the indicators of those who have a mental health. The issue here, the problem in the society, in our in practice, is that some people only see iman from the behavior. So this is something that we need to differentiate. So iman, it doesn't cannot the behavior cannot reflect, the behavior only cannot reflect iman, because there's also, we already mentioned earlier, those who are munafiqun, their behavior seems like to be good behavior. They do, it seems that they do good deeds, but in their heart, actually, they're not sincere. Actually, they don't really mean it. So that means that we cannot judge somebody else's iman only from their behavior. So this is the problem when people try to make a judgment, or on the other hand, try to defend the relationship between iman and mental health. So those who you know who make judgment, they say, well, they have good iman, but they still have a mental problem. When they say that, actually, what they mean by they have good iman is what they see, is what they do, like they do prayer, they do fasting, and they think that that reflect their iman, but actually it's not. If we remember to Surah Al-Ma'un, Al-Ma'un, it's mentioned Fawailul lil Musallin. So even though when you do Salat, it does mean that you are mu'minin, because when you do Salat only from your behavior, but not from your heart, then your Salat is useless. Okay? So that's why we have to understand the meaning of iman, the true meaning of iman. Then we can understand the correlation, the not only correlation, actually, the the fact that iman and mental health actually is one thing. It's something that is not separate. Okay, so that's why we need to be careful when we try to understand these concepts. We have to really understand the concept thoroughly, and we have to understand the essence of the concept. So in Tazkiyah therapy, we elaborate that. We explain that. We argue that the concept of iman, the concept of taqwa, is actually incoherent with the concept of mental health. Okay. And then, okay, so this is just to stress again, that the being mentally healthy actually is only part of iman. So iman is broader than mental health. Okay, so even though we argue that iman and mental health is in the same direction, but iman is broader than mental health. I mean, like when you have a true iman, strong iman, then you will have mental health. But if you have mental health, it's not sufficient to say that you have iman, you have a strong iman. Because when we talk about iman, actually it relates to our relationship with Allah, our relationship with the hereafter, man amana billah wa bil yaumil akhir wa amilan solihan. So, and also iman, the true iman also reflects in the behavior, the amal soleh. So iman is more broader concept than mental health. But iman is not exclusive from mental health. Mental health is not different. I mean, not cannot be separated from iman. Okay, so this is very important. So this is why when we do therapy, actually from the Tazkiyah therapy perspective, actually we also help, especially those who are Muslim, to strengthen their iman. So we don't just do, to make them enjoy life, or to make them, release the stress and so forth. That's part of it. But more than that, actually, we remind them of who they are and where they are going. Aina tadhabun. So where are you going? Where are you going from here? You know, like life is a journey. It's a journey. And currently in this world, actually we are in the middle of a journey. So your destination is in the hereafter. So this kind of idea is what we do, what we remind the client so that they can have a broader perspective of life, and hopefully they will they will experience mental health. Okay, and actually it is proven in several studies, because this concept actually published in 2024, so it's still new. But there's a dissertation about this application of this Tazkiyah therapy, and it proves that this approach can heal mental problems, even though, of course, it's not perfect. Yeah, you have to see it from you know, step by step. You know, like you cannot say that it's 100% heal, but at least it helped them to grow. It helped them to grow. So Tazkiyah is to grow, to get more knowledgeable, to get more realistic about life and so forth. And another example, a client that I myself did the counseling. She had been treated by a clinical psychologist, which doesn't use Islamic psychology approach, and she returned until 8 sessions, but she still feel, you know, she's not satisfied. She still feel that there is something missing in this treatment, and she meet me once. She had a counseling sessions with me once, and after 2 weeks, the administration asked her whether she need more counseling. She said, I think I have enough. So meaning that this one session give the client the understanding that she can heal herself. So because we give her the understanding about life, the understanding about realities, and how she can always learn from the problems, her experience, and how she can be grateful of what she already have, which is given by Allah. So those kind of messages is given in the Tazkiyah therapy. So that's why it makes them independent, makes them open their mind, and makes them grow. Okay. All right. This is just to make it more clear that Iman is more comprehensive, yeah, than mental health. All right. And then if you have a strong and true Iman, automatically you will have a mental health. So the word true here is very important. Yeah, true Iman means Iman that is it's not misunderstood. Yeah, the true Iman, that you have the true Iman. Okay, so this is another argument. Yeah, and then psychotherapy is also a da'wah. With Tazkiyah therapy, when we do therapy, actually it is also a da'wah, because we're trying to, what we do is to remind them about the true path, the Siratal Mustaqim, to understand their heart, to understand you know, the satanic whisper, yeah, to understand which one true, which one is wrong. So that's why it is a process of da'wah from the psychological discipline. So we of course we apply empathy, we apply you know, some psychological techniques, yeah, in communicating with the client, but essentially actually it is a da'wah. Okay. The purpose of psychotherapy is much more than mental health. Okay, I mean, like the purpose of Islamic psychotherapy is much more than mental health. This is just to to stress the point that we also have we're doing a da'wah to bring them to the right path, to the straight path. Yeah, mental health is what do you call it? Sorry, the stepping stone. Yeah, mental health is the stepping stone toward or holistic well-being. Yeah, so mental health is not the final purpose. It's the stepping stone. I mean, like when you have a mentally healthy, then you can learn, you can develop yourself, and you can, like be useful in the society. You can contribute, and then you will have a holistic well-being. The holistic well-being is the destination, the aim of psychotherapy. Not only mental health. All right. Mental health consists of multidimensional psychological states. Yeah. So it's not only emotional stability. It's not only cognition. What do you call it? Cognitive understanding, but it has a multidimensional dimension. Now, this dimension we can say as the indicators of mentally healthy individuals, or the indication of the healthy heart. Yeah, because again, we focus on the heart, and a healthy heart has these 7 indicators. The first indicator is peaceful heart. So peaceful here, again, it's a real peace, not peaceful because you are ignorant or because you don't care, but you really feel the peace in your heart, inner peace, because you don't have anything to worry, you don't have anything to hide, and you don't have anything to, yeah, you live peacefully, even though whatever happened in this world, but your heart is also still at peace. So this is the true mental health, peaceful heart. And the other 6 indicators actually contribute to this peaceful heart. Okay, your heart can be peaceful if, well, this is the Quranic verse, yeah, nafsul mutmainnah, yeah. Actually, peaceful heart is a translation of nafsul mutmainnah. And also qalbus salim, yeah. Qalbus salim is also peaceful heart. So that's why being peaceful is very important. I mean, like that's the aim, the destination, the purpose of psychotherapy. And the meaning of Islam itself actually is peaceful. Yeah. Qalbu Salim, Salim, Islam actually is peaceful. All right, that's another one. So I collected some verses to support this argument. Yeah, it's about a peaceful heart also. And then there's another one. I think maybe I can share the slide later on so you can read of it. I just want to go to the second indicator. Second indicator is solid heart. Solid. What does solid mean? Solid mean you are not easily hurt. You are not easily broken. Your heart is not easily broken. So you nobody can hurt you because your heart is solid. It means that even though people say bad things to you, you will reply that with salam, with peace. Yeah. So your heart is solid, so nobody can hurt you. On the other side, you always forgive others. So this is a solid heart, and this is also one criteria of peaceful heart. And this is the ayat. Yeah. This is from Surah Al-Imran. Yeah. Those who have healthy heart is the one who always forgive. Yeah, this is very important. I mean, very popular. Yeah, in every Eid al-Fitri. Yeah, they talk about this forgiving. Yeah, forgiving. So forth. And also this one. Yeah, in Surah Al-Furqan. Yeah, that you always reply bad attitude, bad treatment with salam. Yeah. So this is a solid heart. And the third indicator that also will contribute to the peaceful heart is a full heart. So what is full heart? Full heart means there's no emptiness in your heart. Your heart, you feel that your heart is full. You don't deprive of something. There's no emptiness in your heart. So when your heart is not full, you always want something more. You always want something more. You want sometimes you feel unpeaceful because you still have these worries, anxieties. That's all. It's not full. So full heart is the heart that you feel. I mean, that is not lacking of anything. Yeah. And actually, this is the ayat. Yeah. All right. We will talk more about this. Yeah, the layers of the heart, or you can say this is the layers of consciousness. Yeah, this is also a new theory. Yeah, about consciousness. A full heart means you have all layers of consciousness alive or working in your heart. Okay, so the outermost layer is the sensing, based on your senses, and then reasoning is your logic, empathy is your compassion, and also conscience. Conscience is the awareness that Allah is always there with you. Yeah, the full awareness. This is the full heart. There's no emptiness in it. Some people, have their heart. I mean, some people experience the, problematic conscience, like they still have a doubt about hereafter, have a doubt about Allah and so forth. That kind of, they have doubt about the purpose of life. They have doubt about the meaning of life. So those kind of people actually feel there's some emptiness in their heart, and it is it needs to be cured. Yeah. Okay. And actually, these layers of the heart, layers of the soul, is the one who determine, who energize our behavior. So we will talk about that later in the next session. Yeah. And then the fourth is coherent heart. We already discussed this, that when you have some conflict in your heart, inner conflict in your heart, it means that you are not peaceful. Yeah. If you have a coherent heart, you never, lie. You don't have to lie. You don't have to protect your ego, because you say whatever in your heart. You can be truthful. You don't need to hide anything. That's a coherent heart. Okay, so this is actually the opposite of munafikun. Yeah, again, this is the verses then you can refer to. And then the fifth indicator is the balanced heart. So balance means, for example, you should balance between emotion and rationality. You should balance between compassion and justice. Yeah. So everything that you can, feel, everything that you do, you have to do it based on a balanced heart. So that's why you don't do injustice. Yeah. So everything has to be balanced. And if you have a balanced heart, you won't be easily confused, yeah, or misguided by any incidents in your life, because you are thoughtful. Yeah. So this is the supporting verses. Yeah. And then the sixth one, a resilience heart. So resilience heart also connect to sabr. Sabr means you never give up. You always have hope. You never lose hope. Yeah, it's resilient heart. You can face difficulties, but still hopeful. You can face musibah, but you still sabr. So this is a resilient heart. So you never give up. You always believe that everything is going to be all right. So this is a resilient heart. And of course, this is the verses about this resilient heart. And then the last but not least is the ever-growing heart. Actually, this ever-growing heart can also means Tazkiyah. Yeah, the heart that is always Tazkiyah, because when you do Tazkiyah, you always growing. You will become more knowledgeable, more wise, more mature, and so forth. So ever-growing heart is also need to be exercised, yeah, practice, yeah, in our heart. All right, so there is the 7 indicators of healthy heart, or mentally healthy individual. Yeah. And only with these 7 indicators, we can become falah. Falah means successful or lucky, or anything that is good. Yeah. Safe, and so forth. All right, I think that's all for this session. I hope there will be some question and answers, so that we can learn deeper about the material. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Prof. Bagus. That was a very well presented lecture. I think you covered a lot of important points, focusing on Iman and then Qalb, and the different dimensions of both, and the relationship between Iman and Qalb, and how those are related to mental health. I think we learned a lot from that lecture. There has been some discussion on the chat But given that the time has passed already beyond our limit, I will just highlight one aspect that I thought we can just conclude with it, your lecture, from our participants. There has been a question, for example, on the use of words in the Quran in related to the word qalb. Is there
Recording
any
stopped.
difference between qalb, sadr, and fu'ad as used in the Quran in relation to mental health? في قلوبهم مرض الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس, and then إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل, so the word fu'ad and qalb and sadr, are there any important differences between the way they are used in the Quran and how they are related to psychology?
All right, I think to understand this, we need to understand Arabic language, yeah, and I myself actually still learning about that, but at least about qalb, I learned some of these issues. Like the Quran, when they're talking about the qalb, they use different terms that actually they refer to the different dimension of the qalb. And also one more thing, like lub, yeah, ulul albab is lub. Lub is the core of the qalb. So the Quranic message language, the Arabic language, actually is very comprehensive in explaining the meaning of the concept of any concept. Like human being can also, called as insan, as bashar, as bani adam, and so forth. So these, terms actually refer to the same heart, yeah, the same spiritual heart or the core. The heart is the core of ourself. If you refer to the Latin language, cardio means core. So actually in any culture, when you talk about the heart, it means the core. So in Quranic word, this core can be called as qalb, as fuad, sudur, and also lub. Yeah. At least when we talk about fuad, it refers to the intellectual property of the heart. And when we talk about, we call it as qalb, it means that we address the characteristic of the heart, because qalb, qalibal qulub, means the qalb is the one who can
Change.
rotate, here and there. So that's why this is very important, yeah, for psychology. So the problematic heart is not a defect heart, but the heart that is not oriented to the right direction. It's not oriented to Shiratul Mustaqim. So because the heart has this a characteristic of turning around, yeah, your heart can turn around here and there. So what you do is to keep it straight, yeah. Ya muqallibal qulub thabit qalbi ala dinik. So we pray to Allah to make our heart always straight, oriented toward Shiratul Mustaqim. Okay, so this is why it is called the qalb, because of this characteristic. So this kind of explanation actually is very rich, yeah, and I'm still learning also. I don't know everything, so you can learn the Arabic, understanding the Arabic language, the meaning of each word actually is very rich. Okay.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah. And with that, we will end our first session for today. We, on behalf of the organizers, IIIT and the International Islamic University, I would like to thank all the 4 lecturers and presenters for today, and particularly at this moment, Prof. Bagus, Riyono, for his well-presented lecture. Alhamdulillah. We thank you, Prof, and inshallah we will meet again next week, same time. Jazakumullahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.